Hi, this is Brandon with Precision Defensive Solutions, and today we're going to talk a little bit deeper into a more serious situation when it comes to self-defense. So, some more examples when we're talking about how to find those lines. And I think those lines come from multiple things, and this is where scenario training in a live fire scenario becomes very difficult to set up. And the reason I say that is because verbal interaction, physical interaction, physical cues, verbal cues all play a part in the go signal, right? It's, are we at the yellow light stage? Are we at the red light stage? Or are we full green light and we're going? To work off of inanimate objects, pictures, 3D dummies, things like that, there's still a sense of artificiality. And I really wish I knew a way to kind of curve that. But it's very difficult to do it safely. So we have to make the best of what we have. And this is where I think force on force training, where you're getting hit with paintballs or simunitions or airsoft or something like that, is kind of critical. But there's stages that you have to look at, right? So as a martial artist, I came up through the ranks where, knife and gun defense were a big part of the curriculum, right? Always had to learn how to disarm a knife, and had to learn how to disarm a gun. And we're going to talk about a couple of situations where I was faced with knives in part 3, but how those techniques that happened on the mat, those scenarios on the mat, didn't play out like that in real life. And so we have to look at how those things are doing, and how do we make our training as realistic as possible when every situation is different. And this is where training concepts and not techniques, I think, is very important, and I think that's a major part of scenario training. And this is one of the things that I loved about this class, is that there was an element of letting people make mistakes and then explain why they did what they did, and then have a discussion about it. And I think that's important when you're starting to look at what your decision-making process is. For somebody that has been through some pretty tough situations, scenario training can be very difficult for me. I don't see 2D pictures real clearly. I see 3D much different than I do 2D because I have no peripheral vision, right? So if I have no peripheral vision, that affects the clarity of the pictures and what's there, right? And with no peripheral vision, people say, well, open your vision, see more around. I don't have that ability. I live in a tunnel vision world, so my world is a little bit different. And so I see those things where people go into that in a stressful situation and end up experiencing it, and it messing with them, where I live with it every day and it doesn't affect me the same way. So let me give you a couple examples of where things were right on the line of going physical to where they didn't. So my wife and I were pulling into a Walmart parking lot, and it was on a Sunday. Saturday or Sunday afternoon, we're going into grocery shopping, and this particular Walmart is in a fairly nice area. We're not talking about, trashy area. We're talking about higher end area. I mean, there are $5-6 million homes within 2 miles of this Walmart. And we're in this parking lot, and my wife sees a panhandler. And if you've been in Walmart in the last 5 years, you know that that's become more and more of a thing. And I said, it's all right. We'll just avoid him. We'll go in the store, do what we need to do, and go on about our way. Well, we pull in the spot, and he walks up to this lady who's sitting in her van with her window down, and he literally starts begging her for money. And he was doing it so aggressively that he literally started leaning through her driver's side window. So there's a lesson here. There's a lesson here. Do not sit in the parking lot putzing around doing other things with your windows down. You get in your car, lock your doors, put it in gear, and get out. Transitional spaces are not great places to sit and putz around, but people do it all the time. And predators, criminals, panhandlers, they recognize those things. They look for those behaviors because it gives them a target. So as much as I wanted to step in and help this woman, I wasn't going to do it. Again, it's not my circus, not my dance, not going to do it. So I get out of the car. We're in between, we're in a parking spot. There's a car next to us on both sides. And we get out, and I see the guy starting to come towards me, which I literally looked at him and said, "Hey man, stay back, don't have anything for you, sorry." He became more aggressive, and as I'm trying to get out from in between these two cars, because a physical encounter in between two cars is exceptionally dangerous. So I'm trying to get out from in between the cars. And I'm trying to watch traffic that could be coming through the drive. And when I turned and looked to see if there were cars coming and turned back to look, the man was so close to me that I went like this and I could have touched him. Okay? Which then instantly turned me pulling my pepper spray out, putting it up towards his face, and telling him to get the fuck away. Which caused him to throw his hands up and lean back like, whoa. Well, that told me that he had been pepper sprayed before. And he didn't want any of it. So my wife and I go off towards the store. He splits off and goes the other direction. But I'm not convinced that he's done yet. So I'm watching. I literally watch his head come back up, look back at me with this angry face like he was going to charge me. And we're talking probably 45, 50 feet away, maybe a little bit more. What do we do at that point? Well, at that point, now things are going to change. Stared him down, paid attention to him, and he decided, nope, he wasn't going to do it. Okay? So that's a major thing in self-defense. Your demeanor and how you portray yourself and how much you pay attention can sway those things pretty quickly. Typically, criminals are not looking for a fight. They're looking for an easy target where they want to get what they want and get out. Okay? They're not looking for a fight. They're not looking for resistance. So keep that in mind. If you pay attention and carry yourself with confidence, that can help curve that. Let me give you another example of another Walmart story. It's a Tuesday afternoon. We typically do not go into Walmart on Tuesday afternoons, simply because we've got classes, and by the time my wife gets done with school, she gets to the dojo, you know, we've got a very small window before our classes start to when, you know, she gets here. This particular night, her fitness class was not happening because her students weren't going to be able to make it that Tuesday afternoon because of work commitments. And so we ran into Walmart real quick. She had to grab something for a colleague at school. And we walk in and we see two teenagers walking towards us. One of them's got his hand in his pocket. He's wearing like jogging pants. His hand's in a fist, and I see a bulge in that hand. It was a snub-nosed revolver. Okay, he's probably 17, 18 years old. Obviously not legal to carry, so he's rolling dirty, which definitely gave me the pause that he and his friend were in that store for no good reason. We go on about our business, do what we got to do. Next thing we know, we notice that particular kid was following us around the store. We both had the idea that no, he's targeting us, he's looking for his opportunity. So my wife stops on the end of an aisle, on an aisle cap, to grab some hot chocolate that she needed. And she looked at me and she goes, "You got me?" And I said, "Yep." As I look up, this kid is poking his head around the aisle cap, kind of hiding his body behind it, but watching us. We're talking 7 or 8 aisles wide in distance from us. So we're talking 25 to 30 yards. Not 25 to 30 feet, 25 to 30 yards. So look at a minimum of 75 yards, and all he's giving me is his head, and I know he has a gun in a busy store. Is it time to draw my gun and start a gunfight? Nope. Absolutely not. I stood there, I stared him down. He decided that I knew what he was up to. Next thing you know, his friend comes popping out from the women's clothes. He sees his friend and they bolt for the door. When they start running for the door, they almost run into the greeter, which was an older man that we recognized from being in the store, which I ran up, told him to go stop those kids, which he wanted to know why. I told him just do it. He did, and on our way out of the store, he stopped us and thanked us for that. And he asked me how I knew. And I said, well, let's just say that I recognized those cues. Now, the reason I ran to that greeter is because there was a police officer in the store handling something else at that time. And because we were paying attention, I knew that he was there because his cruiser was parked right by the front door. Pure avoidance. Didn't have to get my hands dirty. Saved probably somebody from getting robbed out in the parking lot. Who knows, right? But it was a great feeling that because I was paying attention and recognizing that, I was able to do that. Was it dangerous? It was absolutely dangerous. Could it have gone a whole different way? It absolutely could have. So here's another example of paying attention and carrying yourself with confidence and knowing what your lines are, knowing what your capability is, and as they say, an act of self-protection, knowing your math. So in part 3, we're going to talk about some situations of now you're going to find out why I really teach people to protect themselves, to be good self-defenders, and value life. This next one's going to be a little hard. It gets a little emotional for me. But we're going to go through it. We're going to get through it together. So take care, everybody. Pay attention to your world. And be safe. And we'll talk to you soon.